agribusiness opportunities. We have just 1 hour to deal with this issue. A lot of you here want a lot of answers to a lot of questions running through your mind on agriculture. Government keeps saying, go into agriculture, it's a good venture. We want to go into agriculture, especially the youth, but the barriers are a lot. The challenges are a lot. How do we deal with these challenges? How can you go in there? Most companies don't want to finance people in agriculture. People want the funds to grow their business. How do we do that? So I'm going to introduce these 4 gentlemen. They will give answers to these questions, but this is how we'll do it. Because we have 1 hour and you have a lot of questions, and this program is about you, not about me, I'm going to do 15 minutes with them, a few questions with them. I'll open the floor for you to ask your questions, and then we all leave here happy. Do we have a deal? So give me a clap for that. Thank you very much. Sorry? Okay, so let me introduce them quickly, then we start. So our first person is Mr. Sam Dentu. He's a Deputy CEO, Finance and Operations for GEPA. Now, he's a fellow of the Association of Certified Chartered Accountants UK. He's done that 12 years post-qualification experience. He has considerable experience across many areas of finance, including financial control, financial reporting, financial planning and analysis, and business strategy formulation, budgeting and forecasting, and financial risk management and control. He's currently the Deputy Chief Executive Officer, Finance and Operations for the Ghana Export Promotion Authority. Let's welcome Sam Dentu. Our second member is Kwasi Korboe. He has, over the past 34 years, managed and provided support to agribusiness enterprises, as well as designing, managing, and implementing agricultural projects for the government of Ghana and related agencies, including USAID, MCC, and other international development agencies and institutions. Let's welcome Mr. Kwasi Korboe. Our third gentleman is Mr. James Boateng. Let me give you his career highlights. 2018 National Best Farmer. He was the Managing Director, Cadbury Ghana. He oversaw 17 West African countries from 2006 to 2016. He was the Commercial Director for Cadbury 2005 and 2006. And his list goes on and on. But let's welcome Mr. James Boateng. Now, the third but not the least is Kwame Asiedu Atrams. Is a General Manager, Agribusiness for ADB. Now, he is a professional agriculturalist with vast experience in the agricultural and financial sector. He has over 15 years experience in the banking sector. Let's also welcome him with a round of applause. Okay, so I'm going to quickly start with Mr. James Boateng because he has a good story to tell. He went into agriculture from the corporate sector, and his story is just phenomenal. He went through the challenges that most of you are facing, but he's a success story, and we all look up to him. So let's just go through his journey to this point. I'll give him 4 minutes to tell us his journey, and then we take it from there. Mr. Boateng.
So thank you very much. I would say that I had my initiation some 39 years ago when I was a young student in Legon. I had to resort to subsistence farming, basically because it was tough financing my education in Legon. So I had my first feel of it. But in terms of commercial farming, I've been in it for 15 years. And this was a time that I was running quite successfully in the corporate world. As she said, I've had a good time with British American Tobacco. I rose all the way to become Group Managing Director for a number of West and Central African markets. Then from there, I joined Coca-Cola very briefly. Mr. Amkalinze was was my colleague in Coke. I was brief, 3 years. I was working with a bottler. And then I moved on from there to become the MD of Cadbury, also running Western Central Africa. So one would ask, why farming? Because I know most of my colleagues would retire and will want to go and do consultancy or something, white-collar jobs and all of that. But I really had a dream, like I said, many years back. And what I thought that I needed to do was just to answer this question. It was a personal question. Why agriculture has such a negative image in Ghana? And I thought that, like everything we keep saying, agri is business. So I said, with everything that I've acquired in 32 years in the corporate world, what about if I try to run agriculture along strict business lines? So basically, like what we normally do in business, you need some insights, you need to understand where you're going. I mean, in business, if there is no demand, you don't even create anything because you can't sell. So I set off trying to get some soil tests and all of that, got some electronic maps and all of that, just to test to see what will grow where. And then I moved on to basically look at what we're going to do. I realized there was massive deforestation in that part of Branhafo, so we reforested the land for about 4 or 5 years, just so that we could fix some of the issues with weather, rainfall, and all of that. Then we went into horticulture, tree crops. We went into animal farming. We went into fish farming. And then we also decided to go into some cereals because we realized that in our own small way we needed to contribute to the food security of this country. So we've done that, and we started from a mere 5 acres 15 years ago. Currently, we have over 1,000 acres. I think that I have been able to prove to myself that agriculture can be profitable. I still had 2 years to run on my corporate life. I decided to make the call, and I'm happy to say that I'm making much more money in agriculture even than what I was making in the corporate world. For example, I will use mango alone as an example. We have 300-acre mango farm, and we just have about 100-acre portion fruiting. I don't want to mention the specific amount of money we made, but we made over 1 million Ghana cedis in one season, in the just ended season. And so it is real. On the other things that we think have really worked for us, besides trying to run a business running a farm on business lines, we've also tried to instill some discipline. So we've subjected ourselves to some standard certification. So we are certified by Global Gap, we are certified by SMETA. These are international certification bodies. If you want market access, even in terms of the supermarkets, if you want to be on the shelves, they probably will not listen to you unless you are certified in terms of food safety and all the other things that the global certifying bodies look at. So, and then it's not just that. We also have tried to give back. I'm happy to say that I was able to lobby government 3 years ago to build a school on my farm. So there's a school on my farm where about 100 of children from my employees go to school. These kids will probably not have gone to school because the farm is stuck in the middle of nowhere in Branhafo. All right? Besides that, we have a few students who come to work there and they are able to gain their university admission. So far, that's the sweet side.
Your challenges and how you dealt with that.
So far, it sounds very good. We have other crops. I think we are into something like 13 to 14 establishments. It's not all of them that are so profitable. In fact, some are loss-making. And this is where I want to talk briefly about a few challenges that we have faced. For example, mention was made earlier today about the fact that in agriculture, largely, you can become a victim of your success. it can be true, and we have become some victims of our success. Last year, and I will not take you very far, there was so much interest in cashew production, and I know government says there was bumper harvest, big sales, and all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, cashew pricing dropped from 7 cedis per kilo to 1 cedi 50 pesos, 2 cedis. All right, real, check it. Now, I would give you very briefly, maybe in this short presentation or maybe later, why I think we get into this. I know government is looking at planting for exports and rural development, looking at tree crops and all of that. But the reality today is that if efforts are not redoubled, the big interest in cashew can't go away. I want to talk briefly about maize. We planted 100 acres of maize, and we did very well. Subsidized fertilizer, fantastic. Well, you know, PFJ, inputs, we got quality seed maize, and all of that. We had good weather. We applaud government for all of that. However, the maize price dropped from 150 Ghana cedis for 140 kg bag, weighing Brahafo. Recently, a farmer sold that same weight of maize for 60 Ghana cedis. Now, nothing can be a disincentive to farming than this. So I just want to mention that whereas it's been good on some front, and whereas we appreciate some of the initiatives, it has not been that good. We tried to sell a few stuff to Nigeria. Despite what the ECOWAS heads of state say, free movement of goods and services, if you want to sell to Nigeria, you come up with a reality, all right? We are globally certified on standards. I had it easier getting that certification than getting some approvals from FDA, GSA, and all of that. Our own Ghanaian approving bodies are terribly slow. There's so much duplicity, so much. If you want to export mangoes out of Ghana and you have your global gap certificate, you probably will need up to about 8 or 9 approvals in this country before you can put it on a ship. So it's been a bittersweet story. I don't regret it. Like I said, I'm making much more money now, but sometimes it breaks my heart that there is so much potential in farming, but for some of these bottlenecks, some of which I think have to do with policy, legal framework, some are structural, and I don't want to spend so much time talking about this. This has been our journey so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So let's look at the challenges and bring in some. What are you doing to deal with these challenges?
Is a mandated trade promotion organization. Basically, we drive foreign exchange into the country, and it is good to hear people like Mr. James Boateng talk about the challenges that they have in trying to bring foreign exchange into the country. We are there to support and to help with other stakeholders within the environment to make sure that these challenges are addressed. What we are doing to make sure that these challenges are addressed is that we are working more closely with the organizations that need to give these certifications to make sure that farmers do not go through the frustrations that they go through. It is in our interest if farmers are able to ship their goods out without any issues. One of the things that we are doing as Ghana Export Promotion is to create what we call the Impact Hub. The Impact Hub is basically going to give access to all the information, all the standards, all the permits that farmers would need, and not just farmers, everybody within the export ecosystem would need to make sure that they are able to ship their stuff out without frustrations. Within the import hub, you will meet FDA, you will meet GSA, you will meet Ghana Export Promotion, which basically do not give certification, but just license for export. Now, FDA would have to give certification, PPRSD will have to give certification for you to ship your food items out, and all these will be under one roof. It's just similar to what the Deputy Minister talked about when he talked about NBSSI. That is going to come up very soon to be able to deal with these challenges. However, I think that we need to know that we are picking up very well as far as export is concerned. And just as the challenges are there, we also want to encourage you to go into not just agriculture, but also the processing of agriculture. I would like to say that just a few days ago, we launched the export statistics, and we want to say that from a drop of about 2.4% of export, non-traditional export from 2016 to 2017. 2017, we picked up very nicely with about 3.9%, and over time in 2018, we picked up a whopping 10% in non-traditional export, which agriculture and agro-processing played a very huge part in that. And so, especially with the cashew that he mentioned, yes, values are dropping in terms of the pricing, but also the farmers themselves play a huge part in dropping these values, because instead of and of course, it has to do with financing and everything. What they do is they mortgage these products even before they are harvested, and people come in and buy them at the very, very low prices. I was talking to Mr. Korboe earlier. Cashew increased in export. The increase was about 92% over last year. But half of these actually come from our neighboring countries. The potential of cashew is huge. if all the orders that we had in cashew were met by Ghanaians, we're talking about over $600 million worth of export from here. So the potential is big, but we just need to follow up with what the government is doing as far as cashew is concerned. Government launched the Cashew Development Plan, which is a 10-year program, 2 years ago. That is, in fact, a year ago. And if we are following the program, you realize that we are doubling our yield out of cashew. Just spraying cashew, 30,000 hectares of cashew yielded us over 50% of what we ordinarily would have had. And so there is a lot that we are doing as Ghana Export Promotion together with other...
Give us specifics. People want to know the specifics and know where they can tap in. What are the specifics?
Specifics. If I look at cashew, we are giving out free seedlings. We are spraying a lot of the farms, that not a lot. In fact, we started spraying 5 districts of cashew in 2017 and realized that we had a yield of about 30% more of what we did. And so in this year, we sprayed over 30 districts of cashew. And this we do for free. We give out the cashew seedlings for free.
Cashew farming,
yeah.
I can come to you, give me free seedlings to
start
with.
Yes, you can. Even though there is a bit of a caveat.
What is this caveat? I want people to leave here with a clear mind on something.
So initially we're doing it for free, but now for us to also have a bit of responsibility of taking care of it, we sign an agreement with you to give us back so that we can put it in the pool and then rotate it as we go along. Yes, so you can get some part of it for free, but you also have to give us part of for free, because it's not just getting the input, it's also making sure that you have the good agricultural practices to make sure that you are yielding. And so if you get it for free, chances are that you leave it without taking care of it. And these are people who are within the industry, and they know that in making sure that you get the yield, there are a lot of practices that you need to put through. So yes, you can get some help from us. You can get some help from Exim when you want to go into farming. Yes, okay. But you also have a responsibility as far as is concerned. In terms of the frustrations that you get in getting your product out and all that, I mean, just recently you realized that PPRSD issued a ban, a temporary ban on the export of vegetables. And this was an internal mechanism for us to correct a situation. I mean, we've had a lot of alerts as far as export of chili pepper is concerned. And so the point is that if you do not deal with it internally and you allow the recipients, I mean the importing countries, to ban you, it takes a very long time. I mean, Mr. Korboe here will tell you how long it took for us to to reverse a ban. And so the point is that PPRSD would be a bit stringent in making sure that you are not exporting something that will raise an alert and eventually give us a ban. That will be very difficult to deal with. I'm sure he will speak to it when it gets to his turn. But the point is that we need to be sure that everything, because it's not everybody who can export, even though we encourage as many people to come into the business as possible. What you can do is to be a farmer, and there are exporters, be an outgrower for a farmer, and then the outgrowers would have to go through the standards, the good farming practices taught by these exporters, because today, because we do not have certification for export, it's just a license, everybody can export, and then you go out there and then goods are returned. Sometimes they lose their goods because they are not paid for, okay, and all that. So it is important we do our homework well so that, I mean, for the future, we don't suffer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me bring in Mr. Korboe. He's an expert in agriculture. Opportunities. Where are they?
Well, I'm also a farmer, so
yes, great.
Let's get it. I mean, I've been in agriculture for almost 34 years. Started my first farm in '85. Okay, so I look at it from various perspectives, maybe to support Sam, because I've worked in, I started a farm. I'm in private sector. I've also done public policy and so forth. Now, the critical issue, if you take the cashew issue, and maybe let me respond to it, it's that there's also some element of regulatory. As we speak now, over the last few years, we've developed a cashew bill authority, which is currently in Parliament. We are looking at cashew, oil palm, rubber, and shea. Now, the idea is that, you know, agriculture does not stand on its own. You need to ensure that you address all the key issues that impact on agriculture. So regulation is one key function. Now, the problems James mentions can be addressed when this tree crop authority comes into place. Because one of the key things it's supposed to do is to stimulate production, create a regulatory framework for pricing, ensure that people are following the rules and so forth. And we're hoping that by next year, such a body will be in place. Now, what are the opportunities in agriculture? There are so many opportunities. People talk about value chains, and then sometimes people don't even seem to realize that Kinke is within the maize value chain. You know, people don't seem to realize that. Now, within the value chains, it's important that maybe I explain a bit what value chains are. Essentially, if I take the cashew, for example, let's take cashew, for example. You've got production activities. You've got processing, you've got markets. Now, even within the production, there are various activities that can attract investments. So, for example, those who run a nursery supplying seedlings are in business as an opportunity. Of course, they have to make sure they get certification from PPRSD. Those who are supplying fertilizer are in the business. It's an investment opportunity. Then you go to the processing. Those who are fiscally processing, those who are providing consumables or equipment and so forth, these are all opportunities there. Then you go to the market. Are you going to sell locally? Are you going to sell foreign? If you're going to sell on the foreign market, for example, what certifications do you require? HACCP, so there's so many of them, you know. So there are various opportunities. I think also to be mindful that the world is changing in dynamics. You know, I always tell people that agriculture does not really go into food. So, for example, if I take the coconut sector, for example, the car seats you sit on in your beautiful car, those fiber core are from coconut core, but we don't seem to realize that. So the potentials are there. Now, because there's so much dynamics going on, you realize that even our eating habits have changed. Today, for example, in Ghana, if you take rice, for example, in Ghana, our youths are growing up, we are now consuming rice. We used to consume, 8-10 kilos for those of us who are getting close to middle-aged. We used to consume maybe once a month. Now in Ghana, official records show that we're doing about 40 kilos per person. And that's extremely high. Even in the urban areas, it's even higher. So it means that we're seeing more people respond to it. So over the last few years, we've seen more rice mills come to this country who have the capability of producing or processing rice similar to the quality that we're importing from Thailand, Vietnam, and so. So opportunities are there. Now, how one approaches it depends on one, you've got to be clear which value chain and which markets you're looking at. The problem normally is that people don't look at the markets. And the world is a global village. If you take cashew markets, and let's use cashew, I like using value chains as an example. Currently, Cote d'Ivoire is the largest producer of cashew, 750,000 metric tons. Okay? They've beaten India. The cashew market, India has a major role to play in the cashew market in terms of kernel, in terms of RCM, because they are the largest consumer and the largest processor. Then you go Vietnam. So produce now are linked to a global chain. And the priority is that it's not what you do in Ghana that really matters. It's what happens outside there. Because the market, you may not be exporting, but the global market can have an impact on what you're doing. So in starting which value chain where you want to go to, the markets are critical. You've got to analyze it properly. For example, today, most of our children and most of the millennials are going to all kinds of exotic vegetables. When I walk to any supermarket today or even some markets, I see produce from Eden Tree and so forth. These are commodities that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we're not consuming. Okay. So the opportunities are there. Maybe we will go as we talk about it. So the key is that let's look at the markets, identify the markets. Then we can lay out how we approach it. Because it's a wide area of investment opportunities, I can assure you.
Okay, let's bring in the finance bit. Mr. Trump, ADB, you are supposed to, one of your key mandates is to help the agriculture sector provide loans for people in the industry. Over the years, we realized you've been in the retail and corporate banking thing. Now you're hammering the fact that you've changed. You are going back to the agri sector. But how easy is it for these ladies and gentlemen who are in the industry to tap into that pool?
Right, thank you very much. ADB, indeed, as you have rightly said, has been in this business since 1965. And because we've been associated with financing agriculture for so long, we also understand what it really means to finance agriculture. We're not just financial experts, but we are also people who have backgrounds in agriculture. As I sit here with you, I am a trained agriculturist from the University of Ghana, have had some experiences and training in various other institutions around the world. Much the same with some of my colleagues who are in the agri-finance or agribusiness division. What we mainly look out for, given our background as well, is whether or not, number one, as financiers, you have the market for whatever thing it is that you're going into. That's very key for the financier. Once we are sure that the markets are available and sustainable, we look out for what experience you, the proponents in that business, have. Right. So then we would want to understand what you understand of that business, whether you have the capacity to produce, to meet the markets that you're supplying to, right? And then beyond that, we also look at the various quality standards you have to meet, the certifications he spoke about. Do you have those certifications required, right? And indeed, as we do that, we're looking not just at one aspect of the chain, we're doing value chain financing here. Very often, because we look at the market, we're also looking at whether the raw material to feed into that market is available and has a sustainable, is of a sustainable nature, right? And you have the capacity as an experience, you have the markets, you have the, what do you call it, the equipment to produce. We would then, based on those assessments, as in the experience you have, then want to look at what it is you require in that particular venture you're going to be able to meet that market. So the financing needs then come in various forms. Working capital to meet short-term needs. You may require, in the case of somebody who is seeking to go into production, some equipment, asset finance. That we also provide. We then also would look at, maybe you need some infrastructural assistance to open up your operations, right? For example, those into primary production may require some assistance to crop more fields, open up their production acreage, right? Those we then would also assess, given our own backgrounds, and see what exactly you require to be able to meet those needs and provide you. And so basically it's on a case-by-case basis, but the basic thing for now that everybody may want to take note of is whether or not in our assessment you're capable of meeting the market requirements, have a sustainable market, have a credit history. We look at what history you have. Is it your first time of going into it? That is so critical to us because, as has been identified earlier in the financing meeting, startups have their own challenges in terms of what experience they have to be able to meet those big orders, right? Producing or working on debt capital is not the same as using your own financing. The dynamics in there come with their own challenges. So once we're sure that you are very well versed and have the experience in even using your own capital and in addressing the various challenges that come up, then we also have the confidence knowing that because of that equity you have in the business and what experience you've had, when you're supported, you can do it. And
isn't the part about the experience a bit of a difficult one? Because let's say I wanted to go into gari processing. I want to plant my own cassava and then do my processing. I'm a journalist. I want to do this. I have no experience. I'll probably get a few farmers to do this. So that cuts me out of the boxes you want to tick, doesn't it?
So we'll look at your management. Who are you using to produce the gari? You might not be doing the processing yourself. We'll look at who in your team has that capacity, right? You possibly would have hired somebody who is known to be good in gari processing. Once you demonstrate that to us, we are comfortable coming along with you to give you the finance. Then we'll look at gari processing. Who are you going to buy from? How available is that cassava for you to be able to meet the orders that you're seeking to do? And all the forms in which you want to present it. Are your packaging? What model you have presented to us in your business plan and all that? Those help us to understand your business rightly. And once we're comfortable with that business model you're going into, we will give you the finance.
Okay, so I've opened up the floor. We have financing, we have opportunities and experience. We also have experience with Mr. Boateng, and then government policies and all that they are doing to ensure that the sector and you and I can be part of it. So I want specifics, questions, because I want you to leave here with your issues addressed. So I'm opening the floor now for those who have questions. Then we start from there. Let's start from the left and take the gentleman over there. If we have the microphone, Senyo has a question as well. Let's start from this side. We'll take Senyo and then the gentleman here, and then we move across.
Yeah, thank you. I'm a proud farmer, and I hope to be a big boy like you one day. But my road is far. I'm doing rice, I'm doing vegetables, and I have all kinds of challenges every now and then. I tried to do maize, and I've worked out the numbers, and it was quite tight to do it quite professionally, as we may want to do it. But the challenges you highlighted, we being victims of our own successes, especially with price, isn't that rather an opportunity? Because that actually now makes an input for processing much cheaper and much more competitive. Is it the challenge that from the policy side we've failed to really marry some of the strides we are embarking on the production side with industry? It is rather for me an opportunity. So if prices can be pushed down that low, the key thing I want to really understand is it coming that low and people really making losses? Because you're not going to get anybody to reinvest. But if it's not, and people are rather going to get efficient at production, then it means that we are positioning ourselves competitively as a country to grow industry related to that particular produce. So we are looking at then integration. Then Ivory Coast, I used to trade cashew. And we used to move a lot of cashew out of here into India. I spent good time in Tutukuri, just trying to get my cashew around. Now we have the largest cashew producer next door. I've always wondered, I have not looked into it, but since you guys have, why aren't we rather an India processing cashew for the American market? Why do we still have a situation where there is that need to still export the raw cashew?
The raw without value addition.
You know, I mean, you guys have a bit more, but I want some insight. What is the problem?
Okay.
Ivory Coast is just next door. And one last thing, the export, the cost of exports, products or containers, I don't know if it's changed, out of Ghana, much, much lower than imports. The cost of shipping. When it used to cost me about $800, it used to, for I don't know, a TEU or an FEU, then it would cost me about $2,000 to actually get an FEU back in. So it seems to me that there's a lot more competitive opportunities for us to rather turn these challenges into problems.
Okay. We'll take that and another one, then they answer. So we'll take 3 questions and then we allow them to answer, then we'll come back.
All right. My name is Benedict. I have 2 questions, one for the GIPA boss and one for the finance man. I want to understand the dynamics between some of the items we have huge importation for. Meanwhile, we still have the luxury of exporting some. So we take fish. For 2018, I understand we imported to over 300,000 metric tons. Meanwhile, we do export fish. So why don't we rather concentrate on reducing or offsetting the export with the import? It's the same foreign exchange savings. And then secondly, to the ADB man. You mentioned equity from people who are interested in getting finance. But the issue here is there may be someone here who has partners from outside interested in multi-million-dollar projects. The partners are willing to maybe contribute 80% of the sum. 20% of $1 million is still money. Okay, if you tell me I need equity contribution, I mean, someone is willing to bring in 80%. All I need is 20%, and my bank wouldn't give me 20% of $1 million because it's a startup. I mean, there should be a starting point. Okay, so at what point does I actually work with a bank? I go to my bank, my own bank where I am an employee. They tell me story. I go to another bank. Everybody wants you to be made. When you are made, when you have the money, we will give you money.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's the third one. Then we'll take the answers. Then we'll come back.
Thank you very much. So my question is that if I'm willing to invest into farming, if I'm willing to do certification to meet standards, if I come to Ghana Export and Promotion Council, can you be able to link me to market outside the country, like a list of possible list of people who could buy this produce outside the country? And then the second one, I'm also into rice farming, and my dream is to own the biggest rice farm in Ghana. Now, the challenge I have is that anytime I want to expand, then there are issues with land and litigation issues. So I'm able to get land, but not on a large area. I get it piece in pieces at different places, and this is not good for mechanization. So I want you, Mr. James, to tell us your story. How was it possible for you to get that huge size of land? What were your challenges that you faced? And then the last one is, the Deputy Minister for Agric is around. I know Cocoa Board is doing so well for us, even though we are not the world's biggest producers. We make more money from cocoa than every other country per metric tons of cocoa that we export. So is it not possible to look at other competitive crops that we have and set up similar boards to take care of this also, so we can get something good from it?
Okay, thank you. Okay, who wants to start? Gepa? Okay, let's start with Gepa.
Okay, so I'll take the question on whether we can link you to markets. Yes, that's what we do. Ghana Export Promotion is responsible for making sure that you get markets for your products. So when you go to our website, which is one of the robust websites we have around as a government organization, we call it Market Hub. Market Hub basically creates the link between exporters and importers, and you will need to register with Ghana Export Promotion for us to be able to
check market the website now and test what he's saying right now whilst he's speaking.
To be able to meet importers. So yes, we can link you to importers depending on whether your products are of the right standards and they meet the standards of the importing country. So yes, somebody asked the question about why we are importing and exporting fish at the same time. That purely is business. Our what we want to do more is to export more than import. But of course, until we are able to put in import substitution, enough of measures, import substitution measures, you would not be able to legislate or bring in policies that import of fish must stop. But we are pushing hard as we speak. Ghana Export Promotion is working closely with the Fisheries Ministry to look at an opportunity that we have in the import of tuna, the export of tuna, which dropped this year. We don't call it a challenge, but we call it an opportunity. And we are working very hard and closely with the Fisheries Ministry to make sure that we begin exporting more again. But we are doing quite a lot in the in the export of fish area. When it comes to the logistics, I think somebody asked a question about the transportation. We have developed what we call the National Export Development Strategy, which basically would be launched very soon after the ministry, the Minister of Trade has launched and taken it to cabinet. All these issues have been addressed in that document. The document was built by people within the ecosystem, over 150 to 200 of them within various areas when it comes to export, and everybody would have a role to play. In issues of logistics and transportation, in terms of how high it is to be able to export your things out there, has been addressed, and we believe that once the document is launched, a lot of work will go into it to make it easier and cheaper for us to be able to be very competitive when we get out there with our products. these are some of the ones that I picked up. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Boateng.
I want to touch a bit, maybe address one of the logistics Sam indicated. As in Ghana now, if you talk about exports, I mean, you go to our airports or our seaports. If you go to Tema, there's a first-class facility, Shed 9, which facilitates exports of horticultural or agricultural commodities. Very excellent facility we've had for so many years now. If you go to our airports, we have now 3 key facilities, AGPC, Swissport, and so forth. So in terms of logistics, Ghana as a country, we've gone very far. And if you compare us to our sub-region within the West Coast, I think we have one of the best logistics. Okay. Now, let me just give you an example. When I ship pineapple from here in a carton of 12 kilos, and it costs me FOB is €3.60. By the time that product gets to a shelf on a Tesco or a marketplace, the logistic cost is almost about 70% of the retail price. As we speak now, we have dedicated vessels coming to Ghana at least once a week, AEL vessels. So in terms of logistics, these are the opportunities that if we're able to get our acts right, we're able to develop our production. Logistics systems are there. If you talk about airline, for example, if you go to the airport on Mondays, you have DHL, you have Qatar, you've got a lot of cargo planes coming here. Sometimes the problem is that they don't get enough goods to go into it. The challenge is 2. It's production and also being able to comply with international standards. And that's where the challenges are. And I think that we're all trying to work and help to assist exporters to meet those. In terms of our structure, I think we're okay. On the fish issue, we've got to look at the fish issue in 2 aspects. We've got marine, we've got aquaculture. Now, you've got different types of fish, let's call them species. Now, there's a value to it. I mean, for those of you who know salmon, for example, there's some kind of fish which is very expensive. So as a country, what you do is that you export, and it's not every type of fish that you may want to consume here. So you export those that you don't consume, that gives you value, and then you import those in. And it's the same with most countries. So countries that are very key exporters of aquaculture, there's a lot of export and imports going out. And it's what we call trade-offs. Because the reality is that you ship to countries who place a value on certain types of fish, and you also import to your country fish that you also place value on. Now, the issue of cashew, I mean, you'll be surprised to know that we have close to 14 processing cashew firms in this country. We really have a multinational based in Tema. Okay. And the challenge, and I sat through the finance segment, and one thing that came out was the inability of Ghanaians to work together because of economies of scale. When you go to Thailand, Vietnam, India, there are firms that are processing RC and raw cashew nuts into kernels. Okay. If you want to go to the US, to export to the US, you've got to meet their standards. But then don't also forget that the cashew nut is a global product. So it's not just about Ghana. We do cashew in Guinea-Bissau, Tanzania, Mozambique, and so forth. So the demand is a global complex system. So you have to be efficient if you really want to ensure that you have market capture, and also be ensured that you also have economies of scale. Because you are competing for the same RCN with other countries. I mean, Cote d'Ivoire now is stepping up their processing wing, and we have over what do you call it, not surplus of processing capacity. So I think one of the key issues is that how do we get our Ghanaian, those who have small, now how do we get them together in a way to bring that economies of scale for us to be able to capture the market? Then the last thing I'd probably like to indicate that, there are a lot of opportunities. My friend here mentioned maize, for example. All right. Now, some products lend themselves to processing because I can sell maize, fresh maize to the market. I can sell maize dried to the market. I can also produce maize into maize grits and sell to the breweries. Because right now, there's a lot of demand for maize grits. And there are a lot of 1 or 2 firms actually producing maize grits. So that's what the market is dynamic. But then be careful that if you define the market, ensure that your supply chain of consistency of supply of goods to you is there. Because then you go to ADB for a loan and you can't have a good feed throughput. You then go bankrupt because really there's a certain fixed cost. So markets are always, in my view, very critical. Once you identify the market, also be clear that it's dynamic. Human beings change. Our tastes change. Our what we want today is not what we want tomorrow. So for every gloom, as I see it, there are also opportunities. I mean, today when I drive around in the morning, I go to work. People are selling cocoa packaged neatly. 5, 6, 8 years ago, we didn't have that. Now, one company started, and there's a proliferation of companies offering white chain boxes and so forth. That is what you see, dynamism. They are responding to a market need, and that's where we should see the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, too.
There is this gentleman that asked of equity, and equity is basically your contribution to what it is that you are doing. It doesn't always have to come from you. When you have indicated that you have partners, and those partners are putting in money, those partners are part of your setup, and that is the equity we're talking about. So if indeed you have partners that are giving you 80% of your requirement, why wouldn't the bank give you that 20%? So that really is it. When we say equity, if you have partners you're working with, and those partners are prepared to give you 80% of your requirement, I wonder which institution wouldn't give you the 20% you're requiring. And that even gives them the confidence that truly you and your partners have that much confidence in what you're going into. And once you exhibit that confidence in the venture you are undertaking, anybody else would come along. Thank you.
Okay. Let's take the next set of questions. Yes, please, Mr. Frimpong, you can. Whilst you are answering the question.
Very, very quick. Minister, if I can just, I'm sure you may want to respond to what one of the issues I want to raise. I've taken time to look, for instance, at the South African model for horticulture. Now, it's all demand-driven. It's a much more advanced economy, much more advanced market than us, but it's demand-driven for mangoes and all the other fruits. Government takes the lead to create infrastructure, cold chains, and all of that as we're looking at one district, one warehouse. Now, I'm wondering whether we've started thinking about it. Today, we sell, according to UNIDO, up to about $300 million of mangoes. That's the value of the industry in Ghana. Globally, the value is about $90 billion. So we're just scratching the surface. We have the prerequisites to go big so that we don't just, limp on one leg, cocoa. And I think the emotional attachment to cocoa is just so much. Mango is there, coconut is coming, and all of that. What about cold chains? Are we thinking about it under the warehousing system? So, because Kwasi mentioned fantastic infrastructure. As farmers, post-harvest losses don't happen at the ports, they happen on the farms. So, are we putting some cold chains, warehousing, close to the farms? The other comment I want to make is my brother, the banker. You spoke about the prerequisites and the pre-qualification things you need to do. I think one of our biggest issues, and it came up this morning, is the cost of credit. How much are you going to lend money to me when I've qualified? If you're going to do it at the whatever, then you're telling me not to come to you at all, whether I qualify or not. Now, I'm mentioning this because when we were in Tamale in December, we had senior level management of ADB promising that they were even looking at lower rates of interest and all of that. Somehow we haven't heard anything about it. So if you want to respond to it at some stage. I'm also an advocate. I'm still a farmer. Once a farmer, always a farmer. So I speak on behalf of farmers. So if you want to comment on it, please, I'm sure we'll be pleased.
Okay. We have the ministers who want to react to it. Let's take Mr. Homkamins, then we have.
very quick intervention to support my colleague. I asked him to give us some real numbers, not just some words. And I'm going to pick up one point that you made and a point also made earlier. Our biggest non-traditional export in 2018 was $184 million of cashew nuts to India. Our opportunity is turn those nuts, not in shell, to processed. But when you build a certain capacity, then you can start talking industrial processing. Because the value of the nuts exported versus processed is more than tenfold. I don't know if people had a look at the numbers in that. The numbers are significant. The second point I want to bring, and I again think this is very important. If you look at, my thumb is not working. The second largest exporter of non-traditional was 174 million of cocoa butter. That means we've added value to our beans. The next one was cocoa paste, 75 million. So you can see the necessity for us to start changing the dialogue between agriculture and agri-processing. And I haven't heard anybody mention a factory in this dialogue, but that is key. Agriculture has two key components. One is for consumption and one is for processing. And raw materials for agriculture processing is very different from raw material just for consumption. So I think we need to, because if you then look, and within this, I know they have it, if you go onto their website, we have a list of all the items we import as a country. And you'll be shocked how much agri-processing finished products we import. So that gives you the opportunity. For that, let me hand over to my colleague, Deputy Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Honorable colleague. I just wanted to react to the issue of food imports. That is a two-way affair. You can import some aspects of a food and then you export some other aspects of it. And it has to do with all other commodities. If you go to even the advanced countries, Japan produces cars, it exports cars, but it doesn't mean Japan will never import cars. It's the same with the United States of America. It's the same with the United Kingdom. They all produce cars, but they also export cars. So for a free market economy like ours, even though we have some regulations, it is not possible to say that let's put a cap on the exports of something and then, or the imports of something. So what we have to do is to work to improve our exports and leave these other people who are producing their fishes. If they feel like exporting, they have to export because they are rational economic beings who are just looking for their profits. So we have to work hard to up our game in the exports. Now, a reference was also made to cocoa vis-a-vis other tree crops. Why we are relying so much on this monocrop. But I think we have some evidence of some diversification over the past 2 decades, because I've been a student of economics for some time, and I have seen how our export market has been getting diversified. But the robustness of this diversification has been limited because we have not had a dedicated institution in charge of this diversification like we have for cocoa. Because the Ghana Export Promotion Authority cannot have that strength as the Cocoa Board has and its focus. Because cocoa has dedicated research service and it has dedicated extension service and also dedicated marketing and financing. So that is why we come back to KK's issue, that we have a bill before Parliament now looking at tree-crop governance. So we are going to establish a tree-crop development authority, but once that bill has moved from the ministry to Parliament, according to our democratic credentials, it's a property of Parliament now. What we can do is when they ask for any facilitation, then we do the facilitation. But we cannot determine when exactly they will be done with it. But I know next week the committee is meeting on it again, and then it will get back to plenary. And if it's done, we will have the authority in place, and I'm sure all these things will improve. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. We have just about 5 minutes to wrap up, so I'll take. Actually, I have to wrap up now. So what we'll do is they are available for your questions, to answer your questions. You can see them after that. We are moving to the next room to continue with our next session. Then you can meet with them, and then they deal with your issues.
Does mean I can ask the question?
Yes, quickly wrap up on that, then we go. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. There was mention of the cost of capital, right? Interest rates, and that our interest rates generally are high. Indeed, that basically is a factor of the cost of capital and the risks associated with the lending. Right? Generally in credit, the higher the risk, the higher the interest. Fortunately for us, in Ghana today, there are various instruments that are being introduced into our agricultural lending that is helping us also bring down further and further the costs of capital, or the interest rates, let me rather say. For example, we now have Ghana Agribusiness Pool and various other insurance products for agriculture. At the finance session, they didn't exactly know whether we had that in Ghana. It is available in Ghana. That is de-risking or mitigating the risks in terms of the various losses associated with weather-indexed issues and so on, drought, floods, fire, and what have you. And those are gradually being factored into our interest rates as we price the various credits, and they are coming down. We also have GESEL that has come up, and GESEL, as it's become operational, is also being factored into our risk considerations of agriculture, which are then as well beginning to press down the interest rates. We as Agribank also continue to look for various other sources of financing. The lower the cost of capital that comes along with those financing, the better it is for our farmers, because we are all as well concerned about how much we lend to you and how much you are able to make of that credit yourselves. For example, we have OVCF now that we are indenting on, and that is enabling us to lend 18, 16%, right? And we are in the process of still looking for some other more sources that are better priced to enable us pass on those benefits to you. So be assured that the lending rates as they are today are not just because we are interested in making a meal of you, but they are a factor of the cost of capital we get and what risks are associated with them. But again, the risks are further and further being mitigated. So you would surely be seeing a lot more of the driving down of our capital as long as our interest rates, as long as we see the risks being taken care of and the cost of capital we're getting for our cost of, sources of funds coming down.
Okay, let me say we have 3 more sessions to go. Forgive me. We have 3 more sessions to go, so we have to move to that session. When we go there, some of these questions that you have that we've not answered yet, they will still be with us till 5 o'clock. You can speak with them to deal with your issues for you. But for now, we all have to move to the next room where we'll have the entrepreneurial panel. After that, we'll have the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, and then later we have the ministerial session. So kindly bear with us on that. We'll still take your questions for them. I'll make sure they stay through for that to help you. So please, let's move there. Thank you so very much.
Citi TV is live. Citi TV is a free-to-air digital channel. On a digital TV, please press menu on your remote control and run a news search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access Citi TV on your television. Citi TV can be accessed on a multi-TV digibox. Tune into Citi TV and experience your world. Citi TV, it's your world.
Madam, how are you doing? It's 3:30. Three big sessions. How are you? I had some for my This is the first one. So clearly, you try to work in the country.
Apart from this, I'm a farmer.
Citi TV is live. Citi TV is a free-to-air digital channel. On a digital TV, please press menu on your remote control and run a news search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access Citi TV on your television. Citi TV can be accessed on a multi-TV digibox. Tune into Citi TV and experience your world. Citi TV, it's your world. Citi TV is live. Citi TV is a free-to-air digital channel. On a digital TV, please press menu on your remote control and run a news search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access Citi TV on your television. Citi TV can be accessed on a multi-TV digibox. Tune into Citi TV and experience your world. Citi TV